Hello, my loves. Welcome to your reading. I don't have an absurd nickname. It's not coming naturally. I don't want to force it. Maybe in the middle or the end. Just expect some sort of absurd, loving nickname to pop out when it's ready, if it does. So I had a dream, and dream downloads are always a little bit difficult for me. They basically require a lot of time to decipher because there's so many layers. The dream is basically a visualization, and it seems to split you all into three distinct groups. The number 3 could be very significant here today, but what I want to preface this reading with is do not take the groups that I define themselves as too literal. I think the reason that things are channeled in this container way is to provide a lens with specific messages like this. So I just want to say, don't take it too literally. So this dream or visualization, it starts with what seems to be you typing out something, typing out a novel, something. I don't know what this is. You're creating something rather large, but then you end up wiping it after it doesn't meet your standards. I see multiple ways in which this is created, and these are the groups coming through. Some of you are quickly, rapidly typing, and there is typos, and you're just pumping stuff out. And then some of you are very careful. Some of you are very delicate with your phrasing. You're looking up things intermittently. And then there's a little group of you that's bouncing between those two. And this is heavy symbolism for what I think will be the theme of this reading, and it's doubting your default, doubting your style, or where you fall naturally. There's just a doubt here in the way that you do things, and I think that comes from this energy of always thinking it could be better in some way. So the reason this reading is splitting y'all up into 3 groups, I don't know. I don't even know why I just said y'all, is to, I think, explain something to come with this specific style in mind. The group is a style. Spirit wants to illustrate these different writing styles into where you naturally fall into something, because there is what looks like you being put into a position of doubt of this style upcoming. You may be also toggling with this doubt right now, and that's why it's so important, but there is what looks like a energy of being put into a room or someone returning that asks you to hold your style steady. The only way I could really explain this is this looks like the person who types something rapidly and is doing all sorts of typos and stuff, that they feel they need to embody a more careful or tailored approaching energy, and vice versa. This energy is just simply looking around for a better version of how to do something. And so I think this message emphasizes that your particular style is very important, and it rests in what you need to come here to remember within the style itself, which maybe they don't seem related, but they are. The remembering here comes through being put into what looks like situations that make you doubt it over and over again, which is coming up very soon in a very emotional way, whether from a return energy or from whatever room makes you question this. So there's 2 outcomes that are showing very strongly. It's either a person, a past situation that is returning to create doubt with this style, or you're being placed in a room, in an environment that's going to really bring out a lot of emotion and doubt for whatever your natural style is. And so Spirit wants to clarify how it relates to who you are, what you're becoming, and kind of give you a confirmation about what you're here remembering. So I guess today there's no real definitive who this message is for. There's no direct answer I could give you. I guess today is just, I would advise you to listen to all the frameworks I'm going to talk about in the next section. And then if something feels familiar to you, if you feel it resonates, where you are constantly questioning this thing, or you feel it does bring up intense emotions, this could be very relevant to you on your path of remembering through either this person or this situation. And I think after we determine which lens you are or which framework, we could talk about what's going to happen, what's returning, and why it's so important for you. So stick around. The collective is what looks like embodying really abstract energy lately. And I think it's because there's a heavy dream cocoon that you guys are all in right now. I'm noticing a lot of abstract downloads because of these heavy dreams. So I feel like dreams are kind of important to you. I've mentioned them in another reading, but they're coming back here today. You could be having really weird ones that you can't even interpret. And maybe you might be the type that can somewhat draw lines or conclusions. But recently it's just been like, what was that? What was that for? Anyway, it looks like there's very specific lenses today with the collective. Each one of these styles that you are all being pushed to remember is kind of like a default style. It's like you're being pushed to question it over and over again until you come back to it in a way. That's what it looks like here. This looks like doubting or feeling inferior to other styles specifically. And I think this reading is going to confirm your style specifically to you before this thing comes back, before this situation happens. And it can help you probably stand a little bit stronger in it because I do see some questioning that's living here, or some fixing, some tailoring, some optimizing. There's something here that Spirit wants to really address. So this first style, let's call you the informed style. This is someone who trusts only what can be verified. It looks like they move and trust things once information is clear. They gain coherence from clear, coherent information. You are the writer who chooses phrasing very carefully. You iterate and reiterate and look up your definitions, and you make sure everything is in tip-top orderly shape before you move at all. You could be constantly citing or verifying, very cerebral intellectual energy here. You're the kind that's kind of waiting explicitly for confirmation before you act or move. That's kind of like external reality is your coherence in a way. So you could feel like you hesitate a lot because you need an outside source to sort of confirm the direction to you. It takes a while to gather all the factual or evidence-based proof that you need to feel coherent. And so you might feel sometimes that there's a lesson for you in not needing all the information and moving anyway. You could feel hesitancy about your need for security to move. I just see there's a lot of emotion here for why it takes so long to gather when others don't really take that long. They don't have to like wait like you maybe feel you need to do. It's almost like your energy is waiting and others are moving, and you feel a little bit inferior because of that. This past revisiting situation is going to bring up this specific doubt for you. I'll talk about that in the next part, but just know that there's a direct line here for what's going to be pulled out from you in this experience. This next style here is what I'll call, the pattern type. You seem to trust instinctively what can be sensed over what is knowledgeable. This is like you have friends that talk about the news and you detach from that information. That's what this is like when people start talking about the details, you could feel disengaged. You can feel disconnected from that. You act with trusting your ability to read patterns that are like indirect, that are not obvious, that are not told. You're like reading in between the lines. You're seeing tone, repetition, connections across situation. There's a lot of doubt here because obviously this is like not defined societally as a skill. Knowledge is definitely more defined. You very rarely care about the details. I could see this type of person feeling put off when people talk about them because it's not real. It's almost like you're seeing through things in a weird way, in a different way. So a lot of your life, you probably have seen immense benefits from your ability to move intuitively like this. I can see both blessings and curse type energy here. Like you're the writer who's typing with a bunch of typos instinctively. You're kind of like feeling the direction without caring about necessarily the craft itself or the vocabulary. And while others might look at that as like, I don't know, messy or disorderly, you're able to get a lot further than them because you're dissecting and analyzing multiple different frequencies and thoughts and concepts. You're moving at a more rapid pace, but it's not really understood by others. So I honestly feel like you're reading things before they're spoken. You don't wait for confirmation. You don't wait for anything externally. You just move. You're like 20 steps ahead, but that's not always a positive. Sorry to bring down the compliments here. It's just there's always going to be issues. I'm seeing a lot of your doubt is being misunderstood. This ability is not understood A lot of people can't see it. It's hidden, it's gray, it's not defined in society. And so there's a lot of doubt with not having confirmation from other people, being kind of an outlier. Sometimes you're moving too fast when things aren't even caught up to you. You don't have all the evidence, and so you'll just quickly move. And so there's some impulsiveness. There's doubting and impulsiveness and being the outcast that comes up here the strongest. This last one here is what I will call the interpreter. You're interesting because when I want to say you're both, but you're not. You're just kind of this dual signal type. You're kind of moving in all orifices here. It does look like somewhat of a hybrid. And I mentioned this before in another reading, is a lot of people will want to be the hybrid version of things. They'll want to be a little bit of this, a little bit of that, because they think it's balanced. And there's actually more challenges here with this hybrid version. So really think about which one you fall under, because it's not a matter of who the better one is. They all have their strengths and weaknesses here. But I sense a lot of you might want to be this one because it's difficult to define a bucket of what you are. You don't really want to be placed in a bucket. So this one kind of gives you both buckets. But for you, the interpreter, basically it's hearing both signals that I just explained. You're not purely reliant on knowledge and facts and the external, and you're also not impulsively moving without evidence even forming, and you're not completely misunderstood. People still understand you because you have that like grounding balance of some evidence forming ability. So really in a writer sense, you would be rapidly moving with typos occasionally, and then sometimes you'd be tailoring it, and sometimes you'd be doing in-depth research. You're kind of like toggling between those states. And so the problem or the doubt that comes with this style is too much complexity. An overwhelming amount of burden and holding comes with this version because you're in between spaces and you're moving between them. You're not really picking a side. You're not really grounding in a thing. And things can get too complicated too fast by moving between these worlds too quickly. You could feel constantly overwhelmed by things that are simple for others. You need to map it out, and then you also need to find the evidence. So you think about doing both of those worlds. It's like you're waiting, but you're moving. You're contrasting your styles so often that it turns everything complicated when something should be fairly simple. So in the next part, now that I've laid out the doubts and the strengths, I suppose, of these, we're going to talk about what Spirit wants you to hear with these styles so in depth, because this thing that's returning is basically going to test this internal style, how grounded you are in it, why it's important to ground in it when we maybe think otherwise. So I think that'll be in the next section. So here we have these styles that I have given arbitrary names to define energy. And all of them feel, I guess all of you here feel stunted by a style that you are naturally inclined to go back to. It's like you're doubting it's the right way to go. And that because they all have issues and you experience them. So you're like, okay, well, maybe I should try the opposite. That's the kind of energy here. Or I need to spread myself and try more things. And I think it's funny because most spiritual messages are basically lessons to find balance between things, like to go into the gray area, to not be extreme. But this message is kind of saying the opposite, which I find kind of funny. It's basically saying, pick your truth and stick by it and stop thinking another one is going to solve the issues, because the other truths have their own issues. This is more about what feels natural to you and what is true to you, and not what is the most effective or has the least amount of tension. So today's message is basically asking you to trust your read, to trust your style, whatever it is, because there is a situation upcoming that is going to immensely make you doubt it for a reason. And I see this branching into multiple shapes depending on the person who's listening to me today. Like some of you are going to have what looks like a past situation kind of come back to test the clarity of the style. This could be really repetitive in nature. Like this thing, this person, this environment comes back to kind of release an emotional charge that's related to the doubt of this style. And it's not because this thing, this person, this environment means more to you suddenly, or it's just This is the container to reveal the style to you in another layer to help you remember, to kind of push you to yourself again in a deeper way through this emotion. For example, let's ground this because I'm getting abstract, aren't I? Let's say you're an interpreter and a person or situation from the past returns. You might feel heavy, complicated, splitting energy where you're trying to both uncover the facts and your intuition about this, whatever it is. And so you could feel quite overwhelmed. Like you could be really confused by all the things that are presented to you and feel like you need to uncover more. You could have really intense emotions where you're trying to take between those realities and those signals and figure out which one serves you. And so you might be split between two opposite sides here, just toggling back and forth without really moving anywhere, just getting totally overwhelmed. For the patterners, you might feel what looks like a sense of urgency. You might feel you need to quickly put things together to figure out what your intuition is saying to you. You could feel intense emotions about needing an answer quicker than you usually do. It could show up as emphasizing speed in the moment, urgency. This is a type of person who an example came through with this. You know, like when you get a really heavy message and instead of reading it like deeply, you kind of skim it to quickly get the gist before you can invest emotions in it. That's this energy. It's basically moving quicker than you're actually ready to hold, but you're forcing it. You're trying to control the situation and you want to just jump faster than your perception or instincts are ready for. And on the opposite end of that, those who need information or what looks like solid external answers rather than their intuition, you might have what looks like the opposite response here, where the situation that comes to you makes you feel more stuck or unable to move. Like you aren't able to move until something specific comes in. This could be the response of simply shutting down, avoiding it entirely until you have inner coherence with evidence that backs it up. So you could be wrestling with details, getting specific answers, investigating, but you could be emotional from this. Like it could be heavily emphasized with just feeling stuck and unable to move until evidence or change is presented in its entirety. And so now after getting through what's coming back and what's going to be pulled from you, we can talk about your main message in the next part. I think with all the types that are presented here today, what feels the most important with your message is that you are going to be in an emotionally charged situation, but the purpose is to help you remember your style deeper. And I know that that sounds kind of counterintuitive. In fact, it took me a while to sit with this to even figure out what this message was saying, but it seems your guides specifically manufacture these emotional moments to push you into yourself more. That's what it looks like here. And maybe that's been a pattern throughout your life. For those patterners, maybe you can recall specific other instances similar to this. It seems there might be some stalling or doubt that comes from either wanting the best style that has the least friction or wanting the style that feels the most true. So there's a lot of discovery here. And experimentation and trial is good. And so I don't think this message is saying to just like close off and never try anything. I think it's just saying there seems to be a lot of confusion with trying to find the best or better version of your style that keeps you adjusting. And the irony is, each time you experience friction or you are tested, your struggle isn't saying, okay, adjust your method like you maybe think it is. Instead, I think it's challenging you because you haven't fully embraced your natural style yet. And this person or situation that is either returning is constructed specifically for you. Like this room, this situation, this relationship, it will extract the exact emotions that are necessary to eventually confirm your style to you. It just takes repetition, I think. So it's not about the thing that returns or comes at all, really. It's about what it's trying to pull out of you or push you towards. I think pushing you towards remembering your very essence is the goal here from what it looks like. I guess it's important here to remember that each style has their flaws. The informer feeling inhibited and not being able to move until the facts come the patterner feeling like they're moving too fast without the facts or feeling like they're misunderstood, the interpreter overcomplicating everything and essentially getting nowhere except for overwhelming themselves. Each one of them, although they have amazing strengths, also is imperfect. And the solution isn't to optimize between all three or to take a little piece of each one here and there because that creates fragments within you. It is asking for coherence in where you naturally fall. So I see the message today saying embrace where you naturally move towards, especially when the situation or thing pulls doubt or emotion from you, from it specifically. It's pushing you to stand by it more, not to deviate from it. And so I want to offer like an example because we might need to ground this. Let's go back to our interpreter since they like the complexity and I can offer that. When a situation begins to trigger overwhelm or you are split between signals of wanting to act or to gather all the information, when something pulls you to that overwhelm, it's asking you to kind of go against your method. So this might look like someone asking you to purely deal with the facts, purely look at the evidence. Like this person comes back and they just show you all the facts and evidence. And your response will be splitting your system. It will be going into both, into overdrive, into overwhelm, because someone asked you to narrow or go to a side that you weren't naturally inclined to go in. And it's because they're asking you to fit in a container you're not meant to fit in. Similarly, with the informer, let's say, the emotional response you'll feel will be because someone asked you to, let's say, for example, fit in with a patterner type. You'll be asked to instinctively move without gathering all the information. And what will happen is you'll firmly dig your heels into the ground of wanting information as a result. So I think many readers today might have interpreted this message as, okay, find the balance between these. Like when life asks you to be flexible, then you should just like lean into the discomfort and grow. But I see there's a nuance here because you've been doing that for an extreme amount of time. So you know how sometimes we say that when we're pushed to discomfort or something that it's pushing us outside of ourselves to grow. This is saying the opposite. When that happens, it's pushing you inwards. It's pushing you to dig your feet deeper into who you are, even though you might feel like it's a challenge to grow and to go outside of yourself to this other style. So your message today is you will be tested, but not to override your instincts because you emotionally respond. It's actually to start listening to those emotions and those responses as triggers to remember, not to go more outside of yourself and to grow and to learn. I actually see you kind of getting past the need to lean into discomfort in that way. I think you've done quite a lot of that. You're not meant to override your natural style here. You're not meant to keep leaning into discomfort to learn. You're actually meant to embrace your style harder, especially in these instances. So your message is very clear with that is, embrace your style for what it is, embrace the negatives because that's your essence. All right, my little kittens. See, a nickname did come to me and I didn't force it. I wanted to call you chickens again, but kitten sounds lovely today for the absurd nicknames. Anyway, if you made it this far and you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you and I'm so grateful. I am inclined in this small little outro section to tell you how things work here. If you did feel like this was insanely accurate, it is no coincidence. My collective here is extraordinary in the sense where they send me their nudges or their energy very frequently. And so I'm able to channel the most efficiently that I can. So I'm here to tell you that if you want more tailored reads in the future in this collective space, it is helpful to receive energetic nudges from you, comments, emails, however you want to send them. They do not need to be specific. I just need to feel you. They don't need to be your whole life story, although I very much love reading all of yours. And I do read every single one, but they don't need to be if you're uncomfortable with that. It can literally, some people send paragraphs, some people send periods, and that's it. And that's all I need. So yeah, I love you all very, very much. Cheers, friends.